This arrangement is for anybody getting into fingerstyle guitar, although you could play this with a pick with a few simple adjustments, and we'll talk about that as we go. I'm assuming that you can follow either the tab or the standard notation at the beginning of this video well enough that you can learn the notes. So instead of just going note by note, we're going to be talking about things like fingerings, chord shapes, and other things that'll make it easier to play. If you do need some help reading tab, I've got a short video that'll help get you up to speed, and I'll put a link for that in the description. And one last thing, check the description to see where you can order a PDF of this music. First line of "O Christmas Tree." So this one starts on a single note, on a single G, but I'm going to go ahead and prepare my C chord because the first thing you play after that is a C chord. Of course, you're not playing the full C chord because the melody note is on the second string, so you only go through the second string. Next chord is a G over B, that's how you say that. And if you're wondering about slash chords, I do have a video on that topic. For this G over B chord, I'm playing fingers 2 and 4. Although if you wanted to, if that's a little stretchy for you, you could play 1 and 4. And then in the next measure, we go back to a C chord, but this time we are playing all the way through the first string, because that's where our melody note is. Now, if you're playing with a pick, go ahead and just put your second finger down on the second fret, 4th string, make it a full C chord, and just strum through all of that. Next, we have a D minor chord, but we're going to start with the partial D minor chord, again because of the melody. We want to play up through the second string because that's where the melody note is. And then we add first string 0 and 1, and that completes the D minor chord and also gets us the melody. And that is followed by a G chord. I'm playing my G chord with my third finger on that low G, and I'm only playing through the second string because our melody note is on the second string. If you're playing with a pick, go ahead and put your second finger down on the 2nd fret, 5th string, and just strum through those 5 strings. After that, we move to a C chord, but it's not just a regular C chord because of the melody note. The melody note is a D, which is 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Now I'm fingering a C chord, so I'm going to have to use my pinky, my 4th finger, to play that D, and then I just let up to play the C. And then the last note is just a single note, and the last note actually is still part of a C chord, but I'm going to let go of the C chord there, so I have a nice clean single note without all the rest of the chord in it. Moving on to the second line. It's identical to the first line except for the last note. So here's our G over B, C chord, partial D minor, and then this last note of this line is a G on the top of the staff, and I'm going to play that with my 4th finger. Normally you're going to play that G with your 3rd finger, but because of the way we just played the melody note, our pinky is actually closest to that G. And then we're on to the 3rd line. So this line has a lot of double stops. Double stops is when you're just playing two notes at the same time. So at the beginning of this line, we have that G, and we just got done playing that G with our fourth finger at the end of the second line, so that's how we're going to keep on playing that. Now take advantage of that open second note to shift into place for this first double stop, where your first finger is on the 5th fret and your second finger is on the 6th fret. Shift, and then you're going to move down to 3rd position. In other words, first finger at the 3rd fret, and this time using fingers 1 and 3. Next line, or next measure I should say, all we have to do is take that fingering 1 and 3 and then slide it down 2 frets. Then we have some single notes. And then we have a double stop again, so I'm going to slide back up to 3rd position using fingers 1 and 3 and then slide back to 1st position just like we did in the previous measure. And then in this last set of double stops at the end of this line, you want to make sure your first finger is ready to move quickly, because at the beginning of that measure, your first finger is on the 1st string, and then right away you're moving to the 2nd string. Then we have that single note that leads us to the 4th line. The 4th line starts off the same as the 1st line. There's our G over B, and this is different here. Here's an A7. Now if you're a pick player, you can just finger the full A7 chord. In other words, put a finger on the 2nd fret 4th string and just strum through all of the A7. And as a matter of fact, if you're a fingerstyle player, I still recommend putting a finger on that 2nd fret 4th string, fingering the full A7 chord, and I'll tell you why. The chord right before that A7, the G over B, has an open 4th string, that D string, and then the A7, if you're playing fingerstyle and you're playing it exactly as I have it written, you're not playing that 4th string. So if you're not careful, that 4th string is going to keep on ringing, and that's going to sound not so great against the A7 chord. So we need to find some way to stop that string from ringing, and the best thing you can do is just put a finger on it. Now that last note that I just played, the marking above that is called a fermata, and some people just call that a hold. And all you do is you just hold that note for a little extra, however long you feel like holding it. And then after that, we have a comma. That comma in music is called a breath mark. And all that is just a little pause. So you're not going to go right away from that and then right back into the melody. You're going to put a little pause in there. Hold and then pause. And then the rest is exactly like the first line. And that was "Oh Christmas Tree" for solo guitar. Have fun with this, and don't forget to check the description to see where you can order the PDF. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more guitar tips and arrangements.